slow in the mind, but he ain't a bad guy.
So you got a pastor, a servant of God, actually playing God with his patience.
Footsteps. Big footsteps. For the one who let French kiss them every day as they slowly decompose.
That's one of the beautiful things about America. Land of the free.
Hey, want to talk about bridges? Why? I've become obsessed with bridges, Zach, and there's no turning back now.
Exuding confidence attributed to workflow that's best described as paranormal, verging on the ecclesiastic.
This vending machine does not carry what God seeks. Let's move on, Zach.
Special Agent Francis York Morgan's character design appears distinct amongst your typical gaming protagonists of 2021. Nonsensically nonchalant, yet sharp in demeanor.
You really think some giant was responsible for all this?
Melvin, don't be silly. Of course I do. Just when I thought you were starting to catch on.
York's aura contrasts the townspeople of Carré, who have been left shocked and aberrated in light of a recent murder.
Never thought there'd be a murder out here either. And it was a 16-year-old kid.
But this is all purely anecdotal to Elia Davis, a dashing FBI agent operating in the year of 2019, who has been sent to investigate Francis Zach Morgan.
Hey, Simon. Don't touch the sanctuary.
It's my first time actually coming inside, you know.
You're earning far more than you deserve.
Good times. Around 2 hours of this game is spent questioning this man.
You sure about that?
While he's smoking this over here. And a few wild tangents later,
Ow!
We're led into the meat of the gameplay, which takes place in Le Carré, Louisiana, during 2005.
So, what do you think of him? Yes, I'm talking about him. Unda, is the skeletal gentleman friend or foe?
Most of the time in game is spent in this piece of Southern apple pie Americana. Not that I'm very familiar with the concept of Americana to begin with.
The great thing about us Americans is that we can recreate our homeland anywhere. We're happy to transport crunchy bacon across the deserts of Africa if we need to. That's what it means to be American.
I've spent maybe 72 hours of my life in total in the States. In fact, through vacations, I spent more of my life in Cuba than in the US of A. However, I do admire the country in the context of great Americans such as Jay-Z and Professor Dre. Pardon my foreign English. So whether this Japanese studio, based on the other side of the ocean, these guys, have authentically nailed the vibe of Louisiana?
Zach, Deep South.
That's a bit outside of my expertise. But thankfully, I don't need to be an expert on anything, because York here has all that covered for me.
This is it, Zach. A deadly premonition.
It's the name of the game. Wow. You may have noticed these names down here aren't quite the same, actually, and I cannot explain that to you without spoiling a major plot point, so go watch the cutscenes from the first game on YouTube, or play the first game, preferably, but I cannot explain it here.
You're the special agent Scarface that everyone's...
Special Agent Scarface? I'd need a bigger scar to live up to that name. Hey, Zach. Oh, nothing. Just felt like saying that.
So the important question, for someone like me at least, is how does this compare to the first entry? Well, not all sequels made by titles are made in spirit, and I've learned that the hard way many times in my life. So I am very happy to say that the original spirit is definitely still here, albeit with less dry humor this time around.
Delicious. What an amazing chocolate sundae. Zach, I think we just uncovered an incredible treasure here.
To give an example of what I mean in this context, let me quickly dissect what is arguably the most well-known scene from the first game, which is visiting the A&G diner with Emily Wyatt towards the beginning. Let me just summarize what makes this scene great while it's playing.
I'll go all out. I'll have the T-bone steak. I usually can't order it because it's a little too expensive.
Mrs. Olivia Cormack, I am here for Mr. Stewart's lunch.
If it is ready, I'd thank you a bunch.
Yes,
Harry's
of course,
aide
just a
inexplicably talking in rhyming sentences, and yet York just accepts it.
Here you go. The usual. 1 turkey, strawberry jam, and cereal sandwich.
Sounds like the sinner's sandwich. Self-inflicted punishment to atone for past sins. He's setting an example.
York concluding that Harry must inherently be a bad person for ordering such a seemingly terrible sandwich. Like, that's the conclusion here?
So says Mr. Stewart.
No, that's fine. I've just ordered my own lunch.
Mr. Francis York Morgan. That is, Mr. Stewart's order is delicious, I should mention.
And Harry being absolutely intent on having York try that sandwich for himself. And again, no reason. He could just as well just leave with his day and have his nice sandwich, and that's all for all he's concerned. But no, he needs to have this random FBI agent he's never met before try this cereal jam turkey sandwich.
Mr. Francis York Morgan.
And York practically having a verbal standoff with Harry's aide, just because he does not want to try it that much. And what do all these factors conclude to?
I can't believe it. This is fantastic.
Well, when he finally does try it, he loves it. But not just that, they play this ska punk American Idiot ripoff song while he's changing his order. Just a perfect scene. The point I'm making here is that the game never throws a joke directly in your face. It just rolls along, and if you enjoy it, you'll enjoy it. Deadly Premonition 2, on the other hand, whilst having its own witty moments here and there,
I'm sure you feel the same way, don't you, Zach? Now this is the kind of bathroom a person can really get excited about.
seems to rely more on bombastic, in-your-face, and oftentimes downright repetitive delivery of the same joke.
Robbing you of much more than your vitality. The wet socks. Man-eating crocodiles will feast tonight. In Blood Swamp, the body of a beautiful young girl walks at hey!
And while I'm on the topic of comparison, I have to say that this sequel, it just doesn't reach the same high points that the original had. So you might be a little disappointed in that aspect if you're expecting more scenes on the caliber of, say, this. Now, does this make Deadly Premonition 2 an inferior sequel? Maybe, but it's still worth playing if you're a fan. It's not an outright disappointment by any measure at all. So I'm only noticing now that I'm 8 minutes into this review and I haven't even mentioned the gameplay. Well, there is a reason for that. It's mediocre. This really is a story-driven game, and for the sake of dedicating some portion of this review to a video game's gameplay, I'll just say that it's extremely monotonous and the death sounds are glitched out most of the time. I really don't have much more to say on top of that. Okay, let's go in depth about more of the characters.
The Lord hungers.
You have a gentle giant,
I ain't no smarty pants, no.
a paranoid grandma bowler,
So, you mustn't ever cast a shadow over the lane.
an overly dramatic sheriff,
All pigs must die in the city of wolves.
a hotel owner suffering an identity crisis,
Chef, what are you talking about, sir?
the mere,
Purchase this and know that thy wishes shall be granted.
whoever the hell this is, and so much more that I cannot get into without entering the realm of spoilers.
As for me, just call me Hungan.
Hunga.
You'll also be followed around by this girl named Patty, who somehow isn't annoying at all. I'm not being sarcastic. I mean, that sounded sarcastic. Anyway, she complements York's personality perfectly in this. It's actually surprising how well she's implemented into the story and dialogue. What's even cooler is how both aesthetically and thematically, there's such a deep contrast between the worlds of 2005 and 2019. In 2005, you have this witty, positive genius who nonsensically always solves his cases through strategies others can't even comprehend, freely exploring and interacting with a homely small town that's just full of personality, just bursting with it. But in 2019, you have this cynical, jaded old man stuck inside this cold, dreary house with people he clearly disdains. On one side, you have this extremely competent and bright agent, and on the other is this unstable old man who has completely lost control on reality. But what's most beautiful about this is how both of these worlds interact with each other throughout the game, and it all comes to a head in what I consider to be a very satisfying ending for the series.